Hey guys, welcome to book review number 88, I believe. Today I am going to be reviewing All Good Things from Paris to Tahiti, Life and Longing by Sarah Turnbill. So what this book is about is it's about a Australian female author who had moved to Paris to be with her husband, who is of French descent, for about 7 or 8 years, and on assignment from his French law firm gets reassigned to French Polynesia, Tahiti specifically. And so obviously, as the book would suggest, it's about what it was like to live on an island in the middle of the South Pacific for about 2.5 years. So she kind of focuses on what paradise means, where is it not paradise. She also focuses as kind of a mirror extensively about what her life was like in Paris prior to her move, kind of the metropolitan feel, the modern feel, and then when she gets to French Polynesia, the lack thereof. Now, not that people in French Polynesia are like starving or in need in particularly, but just a lot of the modern conveniences that we have there they didn't have there. A classic example of this is, I think French Polynesia is a pretty populous, or specifically Tahiti is a pretty populous island, with I think somewhere in the range of like 150,000 people on the island itself. Now that doesn't sound like much, but you're dealing with a relatively small island. But for this entire island, the only road on the entire island is a 2-lane, it is blacktopped, but 2-lane road that runs around the outside of the island. There's also some dirt tracks that go inland, but that just kind of shows you the lack of, infrastructure development that is there. Now that being said, Sarah does actually not live on Tahiti, but lives on an island called, I believe it's Maora, excuse me, which is about a 12-minute ferry ride. Get some beer to help me out. From Tahiti. And so her husband takes the ferry into work every day, and she essentially has the housework to herself. She doesn't necessarily have to work there, but engages in the sort of leisurely pursuits of a writer. Kind of focuses on the community, her neighbors, what there is to do every day. She always starts her daily routine by swimming in the lagoon, which she says, unlike obviously the cold waters of Europe or even the crashing big waves of Australia, because the reef around the outside of Maora is actually like, the water's like 80, 85 degrees, crystal clear blue, aquamarine blue. And she said it almost feels like going into the womb, swimming in it, which is ironic because that is largely what the second half of the book focuses on. The fact that she cannot get pregnant, that she is, or was thought to be barren because of a certain hormone within her body. But by the miracles of modern science, is able to actually get pregnant. But that's kind of skipping ahead of myself a little bit. Kind of the stuff that she focuses on in French Polynesia itself. She focuses obviously on the difference between the native Polynesians and the French, or it doesn't necessarily have to be French, but it's primarily French, outsiders to the islands. That have come in, and just what goes on via that interaction. She mentioned she does go to a dinner party where the old kind of colonial atmosphere is in place of turn your nose up to these savages that live in this place, and isn't France so great? It's kind of like a little bit hypocritical because these people rave about how much they enjoy the pleasures of French Polynesia, but also complain about anything that is not French, that is lacking. Not that the French and mainland French are known for their complaints anyway. But she also mentioned that that was only sort of a group, that wasn't really, I mean, there is certainly that group of people in French Polynesia, but that's not all white people in French Polynesia. That she met plenty of people that were very concerned and of good manners towards the native peoples, and kind of knew that they were on not their own territory, but on foreign territory. Man, I got frog in my throat. French frog. Excuse me. Let's see. Well, she goes to a couple of the outlying islands. She goes to Bora Bora, which everyone loves, but she said really she got kind of bored with after a while. Partially because Bora Bora, at a price, at a very, very expensive price, considering Bora Bora is one of the most expensive places to vacation on Earth, is Bora Bora is actually wired to the gills with modern conveniences. Now, not necessarily like the big like car type conveniences, but all the like, you know, kitchen appliances, gadgets, you know, boats, electronics, TVs. She kind of made specific mention of the fact that in this very, very beautiful place that's very similar to Maura actually, in that it has a lagoon, has a reef, has a lagoon, which you can swim in, is very calm, has mountains. The difference being that the hotels are out over the ocean. But in these bungalows, if I can ever speak correctly, there's 3 TVs, she said, in the bungalow that she stayed out over the water. Now, why you would need 3 TVs in a 2-bedroom suite on an island that is paradise, more or less, at least aesthetically, she said just baffled her, and she actually got kind of bored by the place. And eventually went back to Maura. A couple of the other places she went to, I believe I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but she went to the Teluve Islands, which she said was a completely different experience. That primarily being because all the other islands that she went to, including the Marquesas, which I'll get to in just a second, are all either high islands that the main island is in the center, with the reef around the outside, or yeah, the island, or well, they're all high islands, I guess I should say. But this archipelago is only made up of atolls, so it's only the thin strips of sand that surround the lagoons with no islands in the middle. Which she said had a completely different feel from these islands where they went 1,000 feet in the air. Now you're talking maybe 3 feet in the air, and it's maybe a 50-foot stretch of sand that extends 10 miles in one direction, and so it's basically like just this long sand thing. But anyway, like I said, the second half of the book largely focuses on her pregnancy. She goes back to Australia, has trouble, eventually does get pregnant, delivers, she delivers in Tahiti, which I thought was a little bit brave. You know, Tahiti's kind of like mid-range in terms of economic development. It's not France, it's not the United States, but it's well above, like, you know, Africa, or, you know, even large parts of Asia, or maybe on comparable, like, to the same level as like countries in South America. But she delivers there, and then the last part of the book, they go to Australia and kind of tour the surrounding continent, go to Ayers Rock in the middle, and that's kind of how the book ends. It's kind of the bookend between the start in Paris, the main part in French Polynesia, the culture there, the nice people, the lays. I'm just going to list off some things that pop into my mind. The people, the lays, the lush scenery, the fact that although violent crime is almost non-existent, theft is rampant, that just petty theft just happens all the time. that some of her neighbors were curmudgeony in this paradise, and other neighbors were joyful and giving. That she got to go see where Robert Louis Stevenson's, the famous curmudgeon, lives. And she actually talks about Robert Louis Stevenson a lot in this book, about what his ideal of paradise is versus what the reality is, and how Tahiti is a place for artists because, or is, if not a place, is at least attractive to artists, because artists are almost always never satisfied, or always there's always that existential angst with artists, and so an idea of paradise exists out there, but when you get there, the ideal and the reality don't always match up. Now that's not to say that there can't be fulfillment, but it isn't always what we see in the West. Marquez, yeah, boating, which she said she actually didn't enjoy that much. The flies, the monsoon season versus the non-monsoon season. In this idea of paradise, the trash that washes up on shore. You're in the middle of the Pacific with a very small population with nobody else around for almost thousands of miles. Yeah, there's trash in the monsoon season that washes up, floats them via the currents. Man, I'm really losing my voice. The controversy between the French nuclear power, or not nuclear power, but French nuclear tests that happened in French Polynesia, that there was a huge political debate over. Just all these things that kind of, all these multiple layers that exist over the very nice veneer of paradise in French Polynesia. Well, anyway, she talks about her kid, kind of about some of the ups and downs, trials and tribulations of parenthood, and then they end the book in Australia, touring around the country, going to Ayers Rock. She said it was kind of ironic because obviously you would think Australia, which is huge to say the least, I mean, I can't express how huge this country is, would be nothing like French Polynesia, but in a very different time frame where it would only take like 45 minutes to an hour to go around Maura in French Polynesia, it would take months, 6 months, 7 months in Australia. She said that even though there's that huge difference in time, there was the sense of being on an island, which I thought was very interesting, particularly someone that does not come from an island culture. But anyway, she ended up in Australia with her husband. Yeah. So, final thoughts. Good book, really good about domestic life. I really feel like the books that I've reviewed so far about French Polynesia have largely been like travel literature, where people kind of came and they went and then that was it. Like a few weeks, few days, I mean, whatever it is. But this book really gets into what domestic life means in Polynesia, what, just resident life in French Polynesia means. It really gives you an insight of what it's like being a foreigner living in this so-called paradise that is, although I say so-called paradise, is quite pleasant. Well, anyway, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Keep watching for more reviews, you guys. All right, bye.